Welcome to The Explainer. You know, Ramadan is this incredible time for deep spiritual focus, but let's be real. It can also bring up some questions, right? Things we're not totally sure about when it comes to our worship. So that's what we're going to do today. Tackle a few of those key areas and get some clarity.
Think of this as your go-to guide. We're going to lean on some solid Islamic scholarship to break down two of the most common and honestly most misunderstood areas of worship during this amazing month.
All right, so here's the plan. We're going to kick things off with some personal acts of worship, things related to purity and prayer. And then we'll switch gears and dive into the super important communal act of Zakat, the annual charity.
Okay, so first up, let's tackle a topic that's, well, a totally natural part of life, but one that can be surrounded by a whole lot of confusion. We're talking about the specific rulings for women when it comes to menstruation and postpartum bleeding.
So the first term to know is hays, and this is simply the word for the regular monthly menstrual period.
And then there's nifas. This refers to the bleeding that happens after childbirth. Now, the rules for both of these are actually super similar, but, and this is a big but, they lead to a really crucial difference in what you're required to do afterwards.
And this is the key takeaway right here. Fasts that are missed, yep, those need to be made up later on. You got to do a qada for those. But the prayers, any prayers missed during this time are completely, totally forgiven. It's an act of divine mercy and you don't have to make them up. Big difference. So that kind of begs the question, doesn't it? Why? Why are these exemptions even there? And it's so important to really get the compassionate wisdom behind these rules.
Well, when you look at the scholarship, it frames these natural states in a really specific way. It's not about being impure or anything like that. It's seen as a kind of temporary illness or a period of physical stress on the body. So the exemption from worship, it's not a punishment at all. It's a mercy. It's a break.
So at the end of the day, it really comes down to this. This isn't a penalty. It's a compassionate allowance, a rukhsat, given by God to provide ease and to acknowledge what the body is physically going through. It's about rest and recovery, not restriction.
Okay, let's switch gears completely. We've talked about a very personal act of worship. Now, let's move into a financial one that has a massive, huge impact on the whole community. Let's talk about Zakat.
There's a really common misconception out there that Zakat is something you only pay in Ramadan. And look, a lot of people choose to give it during this blessed month to get those extra rewards, and that's great. But the actual due date, that's totally personal and unique to you.
So here's how it really works. Think of it like a personal anniversary. Your Zakat year starts on the exact Islamic date that your wealth first hit a certain minimum level. Then, one full Islamic year later, to the day, that's when your Zakat is due. It doesn't matter if that day falls in Ramadan or Safar or any other month. Okay, so how do you actually figure out the amount, the calculation part? Well, the good news is it's probably way more straightforward than you think.
First things first, you need to know about something called the nisab. This is just the minimum amount of wealth you need to have before Zakat even becomes a thing for you. Traditionally, it's tied to the value of about 612 grams of silver. Now, because the price of silver goes up and down, you'll have to check what its cash value is on the specific day you're doing your calculation.
So what exactly do you pay Zakat on? Well, it's generally due on what we call productive assets. Think of it in a few main categories. First, gold and silver. Doesn't matter if it's jewelry, bars, whatever. Second, cash, whether it's in your wallet, in a bank account, or even money you've lent out to someone. And third, any goods or property that you bought specifically with the intention of selling it for a profit. The process itself is actually pretty simple. You take the total value of all those assets we just talked about. From that total, you subtract any immediate short-term debts you have to pay off. And whatever is left over, that's your zakatable wealth. That's the amount you'll calculate from. And the amount you actually have to pay is just 2.5%. That's it. Or, to put it another way, it's 1/40th of that final number we just figured out.
So we've talked about two pretty different things, right? Purity for women and then financial charity. But what's the thread that connects them both? Well, it's one really fundamental principle. It's this, actually taking the time to seek correct knowledge about your deen. That is, in and of itself, a profound act of worship. When we understand the how and the why behind our duties, it just strengthens our faith so much. It makes sure our efforts are going in the right direction, and it moves us from just, doing things out of habit to really performing conscious, meaningful worship.
And at the end of the day, this whole journey of learning and understanding, it doesn't just stop here with this explainer. So I want to leave you with a thought, a question to chew on.
What's one question about your faith that you've always wanted to dig into? Whatever it is, seeking out that answer, that's your next step in growing spiritually. Thanks so much for watching.